Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Don Stewart, and welcome to another edition of Breaking News. Today is Saturday, the 12th day of October, 2024, as we're still in the midst of Yom Kippur, the holiest day on the calendar for Judaism, the Day of Atonement, the day, of course, that was fulfilled on Good Friday in the first century by the death of Jesus Christ on Calvary's cross, where he took the penalty of the sins of the world upon himself, being your substitute, my substitute, so we don't have to suffer for our own sins. Now, in the headlines today, on this Day of Atonement, we find Israel on high alert. It marks the first time that Yom Kippur has been on high alert since 1973, right after and right when the Yom Kippur War took place during the Day of Atonement in 73. Now, another story of interest. Vladimir Putin reaffirms Russia's commitment to Iran against Israel, which is profound, which is exactly what we expect to see from last day's Bible prophecy, as we've explained, and we will continue to. Biden and company running cover for Iran's nuclear program may start World War III. This is an editorial from the New York Post, basically continuing to say how the head in the sand with Biden and his contemporaries on his administration saying Iran is not developing its nuclear program, which of course it is, and trying to get us to believe that there's no attack that should be made by Israel against Iran's nuclear facilities because it's not trying to build a bomb, which they've been trying to do for the last 20 years. It's beyond ridiculous. Now, also, to this last story is something else. This is under the headlines. You can't make this stuff up. There's a London-based multinational bank called the NatWest Bank. They've declared war on meat and dairy. They've actually launched a new payment monitoring system to track customers' purchases as part of a crackdown on the general public buying meat and dairy products. We kid you not. This is where our world's going. An actual multinational bank that has an app that's tracking anybody's purchase if they buy any meat products or dairy products because they're politically correct. And in this new woke world, there's certain things you can't eat, certain things you can't have, and they're going to tell you what's good for you and what's not. And if you try to eat something or drink something or do whatever that's different than what they say is right, then they're going to track you down. Again, you really can't make this stuff up, but it's what we assume actually to be true from Revelation 13 with the final Antichrist, the mark of the beast, where you can't buy or sell without the mark on your right hand or forehead. Now, again, with a story like that, you expect this to not happen overnight. The monitoring of the world, the monitoring of banks, the monitoring of governments on what we do and what we say. So we see this happening constantly in our world. It's setting the stage for what the Bible said is going to take place at the time of the end. All right, let's look at the stories. Headline number one, Israel on high alert marks Yom Kippur amidst the war, the first time since 1973. And let me tell you, they're on high alert. The rocket fire is continuing as I'm sitting down here ready to record this story early in the morning here on Saturday in Southern California. My red alert app went off. More rockets are shot. Something like 100 rockets were immediately shot to Israel from Hezbollah as soon as Yom Kippur began, when it officially started the other night at dusk. The rockets started flying over from Lebanon, and they're continuing right now. Some 1,600 students have still been evacuated from northern Israel, and 90 schools in the region, believe it or not, 90 schools have been damaged from rocket fire or military activity. And so to get the people back there to start life as it was before, it's going to be very, very difficult. And so this Yom Kippur is different than any other since 1973 when the Yom Kippur War took place. All right. Now, the second story is something that we're been telling you all the time about, and it's confirming what the Bible has to say. And it's an interesting headline. Putin reaffirms Russia's commitment to Iran against Israel. Now, why is this important? It's important because in the last days, it will be Russia, not Iran, that leads an invasion against Israel. And Russia will have alongside Iran, Turkey, and other nations that will join it in attacking Israel from the north, south, east, and west. And contrary to what's happening now, as we emphasize, it will take a supernatural intervention by God to keep Israel from being destroyed. Now, Israel's doing real well on its own right now. They've gotten rid of Hamas in the south. They're neutralizing Hezbollah in the north. But in this future invasion, with Russia at the lead, they need God's supernatural help. But for that to happen, Russia and Iran must be working together, and Russia must be taking the lead from Iran. And that's precisely what's happening. Here we go. President Vladimir Putin told his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian on Friday that Moscow continues to place a high priority on cooperation with Tehran, and get this, and wishes to create a new world order in which the West and Israel no longer have a dominant position in global affairs. Now, that is a powerful, powerful sentence. Again, uh, no longer have a dominant position in global affairs. Putin and Pezeshkian met on the sidelines in a forum in the capital of Turkmenistan. Pezeshkian said he hoped that he and Putin could sign a comprehensive strategic partnership agreement during the next meeting at the BRICS summit in Kazan. Russia later in October. In Kazan, Russia, later in October. BRICS is an economic bloc, by the way, co-founded by Russia, which Iran joined at the beginning of 2024. It's a financial bloc that a number of nations are joining into, as you know, as in contrast to the West. Moscow and Tehran actively cooperate with each other in their international arena and often agree on their assessments of world events, Putin said at the Turkmenistan summit on Friday. This year, we are witnessing an increase in the volume of trade between the two countries, and it's a good trend. And it goes on to say the growing process of cooperation between Iran and Russia should be accelerated according to the will of the supreme leaders of the two countries and the need to strengthen their relations. This is from the Iranian side of Pezeshkian, and he seems to forget that Russia technically doesn't have a supreme leader as a president, but actually it does in Vladimir Putin. He's like president for life, the supreme leader. Pezeshkian complained about Israel's highly successful campaign against Iran's terrorist proxies in Gaza and Lebanon, Hamas and Hezbollah, and indicates he expects Russia's support against the Zionist regime. The Zionist regime does not respect any international legal and humanitarian framework, and the situation in the region is critical, he said. Again, laughable, but this is basically what's going on. So the article goes on to talk about how the Russian Foreign Ministry accused the US and UK of hypocrisy for supporting Israel's campaign against Hezbollah, despite civilian casualties, after lecturing Russia about the civilians killed in Ukraine. The Russians are also angry about Israeli airstrikes on Hezbollah and Syria. Once again, they're told, this is from the Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman, Israel has grossly violated the sovereignty of Syria by launching a missile attack on a multi-storied apartment building in a densely populated area of Damascus. It is outrageous that such actions have literally turned into a routine practice applied to Syria, Lebanon, and the Gaza Strip. I mean, this is amazing. What they attack, of course, is the headquarters of Iran and their terrorist organizations, their Hezbollah, their surrogates there in Damascus, which again supplies the weapons that go into Lebanon, where Hezbollah is. Okay, so it's amazing. So here's the bottom line. This is exactly what we would expect to happen based upon the biblical predictions of the last days. Iran will be a subordinate to Russia, and their attempts to Israel will miserably fail. That's why Russia must take the lead, which they will, and they will put together eventually a coalition that will include Libya, that will include Turkey also, which are not part of this war right now, not part of the surrogates with Iran. So it's a whole different lineup, completely different lineup than what's taking place right now. And so be careful when you hear people say that, Ezekiel 38, 39 is right around the corner. It isn't. Not at all. Like we said, there's a lot of things that need to get done. Again, check out Appendix 5 in our book, 25 Signs. We're near the end, where we talk about if a regional war takes place between Iran and Israel, is that fulfilling Bible prophecy? And the answer is no, and not at all, because it's not. Iran is not going to be the leader. It's going to be Russia that does that, and that's still in the future. So please, let's stick with what the scripture says, because like we say here every single day, there's only one thing we're interested in. What does the Bible say about these things? Teaching truths about, who God is, who Jesus Christ is, who we are, what the future holds, the afterlife, stories, topics like this. And on our website, Educating Our World, we have 65 different books under 11 different topics to go into great detail explaining the scriptural position on all these. So that's what we do here and why we do it. And we do breaking news as a means to an end to show you that God's program is going exactly as said, but not just in this one area, in every single area. It is literally amazing. Now, this next headline fits with what the Bible teaches also, that the United States will go down the drain at the time of the end, will not be a player. It's from the New York Post editorial board. Biden and company running cover for Iran's nuclear program may start World War III. Many have criticized President Biden in regards to Iran's nuclear program. The Biden administration, according to editorials, is beyond saving on the question of Iran. Senior intel officials are peddling the delusion that the Islamic Republic has not truly yet made up its mind to build a nuclear weapon. Seriously. After Iran's blatant attempts to enrich uranium to a level needed for a nuke, its creation of secretive underground installations for doing so, its refusal to allow meaningful inspections, and its endless apocalyptic posturing, the White House is trying to sell America on the idea of, well, probably not a real issue. Now, how much longer will Joe Biden and his Khomeini's adjacent foreign policy clique continue to push this BS? And this is from the New York Post. Stopping the Iranian drive to operational nukes was the key justification for Barack Obama's disastrous 2015 deal with the mullahs. In other words, that was the justification. We're going to keep them from building nuclear weapons. And for Biden's pathetic attempts to resurrect the deal, which failed, humiliated America, alienated our allies, and set the world on fire when October 7th happened. No deal, they say, meant nukes in Iran and war in the Middle East, an iron necessity of geostrategy only a fool would deny. This is exactly, again, what Iran has been trying to do for some 20-odd years. Everybody knows it's true except Joe Biden's administration. But now they say the opposite. We have no deal because Iran's not making nukes anyway. This is classic Democratic doublethink technique. So which is it, Joe? In other words, we don't need to bomb their nuclear facilities because they're not interested in building a nuclear weapon. When again, they're doing underground testing, they're working on enriching uranium to weapons grade. They're working on their delivery system where they can have a rocket with hit precision strikes against the little Satan, Israel, and then intercontinental ICBM against the big Satan, the U.S. They're developing all this. They've been doing it over the years out in the open, yet the Biden administration is like the monkeys, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. So as one person says, Biden should be helping Israel head off Iran. The aggression has stretched across multiple fronts. But now Israel has unleashed its military might against Hamas and Hezbollah. It's clearly winning. Hence, Biden tries to step in to, quote, avoid escalation, as if protecting Iran's nuclear program will somehow make the world a safer place. And the editorial New York Post ends with, sorry, that thinking is what's making the world a more dangerous place, not Israeli self-defense. And the headline was, they're leading us into World War III. So this is exactly what's happening. This is not only incompetent administration, but actually so wrong-headed on so many areas. And you would expect that from progressives, from the leftist, the woke leftists that basically say the old values, the God, the Bible, right and wrong, it just is no longer in existence. We're progressive, like the governor of California called those of us who believe in that as regressives, like we're Neanderthals walking around with our knuckles dragging on the ground because we believe there's a right and a wrong. There's a God who's revealed himself to the world, and he told us what's right, what's wrong, as well as what's going to happen. All right, this last headline is, again, you can't make this stuff up. NatWest Bank declares war on meat and dairy. This is from Zero Hedge. London-based NatWest Bank has launched a new payment monitoring system to track customers' purchases as part of a crackdown on the general public buying meat and dairy products. The carbon footprint tracker, we are told, is going to tackle the alleged climate crisis. This British multinational bank system monitors customer spending and scolds customers when they buy meat and dairy products. The tracker issues alerts that warn customers their food purchases are causing climate change. And I'm not making this up. As part of NatWest's smartphone banking app, users receive messages when they are caught buying traditionally farmed produce. They are also urged to swap out items such as beef and milk with alternatives such as non-dairy or plant-based products. The app pressures customers to take part in Veggie Mondays and warns them they should be choosing mostly plant-based diets to fight global warming by reducing their so-called greenhouse gas GHG emissions. The alert messages also recommend eating vegetarian at home and reduce your carbon footprints by 40 kilograms. By swapping out beef, the app alleges an individual could reduce their carbon footprint by 12 kilos. In addition, users are urged to try adding tofu, lentils, and other alternatives to their diets as substitutes for eating meat. I don't even have to comment on that. The bank doesn't draw the line at food, however. However, it seeks to push the green agenda into all aspects of customer spending. The app also suggests buying more secondhand clothes, taking fewer flights in order to comply with the net zero targets of the World Economic Forum. Additional warning messages from the banks tell customers to switch off tumble dryers, share car journeys, and wash your clothes in cold water. Users can also opt in to receive a monthly carbon score, which the bank already tracks as default. However, as you can imagine, this move has angered British farmers with its push to crack down on red meat and to replace dairy products with plant-based alternatives. This is how crazy our world has gotten. And people, it's only going to get crazier. So we have to realize that and have to appreciate the fact that we are living at a time as we're getting closer to the second coming of Christ, the events that will precede it as the Bible predicts. These things are all falling into place where they call good evil, evil good. They'll, actually hate that which is good. 2 Timothy 3 tells us that in the last days that'll happen. So we're not surprised by any of this. But again, it's horrible. Ultimately it's an attack against God, the Bible, against the God of the Bible, and his morality, his truths that he's revealed to the world. But we know it's all going to end. We again, like we said, we read the last chapter of the book. We've seen the last act of the play, watched the last scene of the movie, and that is Jesus Christ returns and God's kingdom is set up. So that's why we're optimists here, and we tell you that every single day to encourage you. We want you to be encouraged in spite of all the nonsense that's going on in the world. All right, I'm Don Stewart. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Breaking News. We will do a second edition of Breaking News only if something major happens. Like we said, we've stopped doing two. We're working on other projects. As we've been mentioning, we'll go into a little more detail soon about those because they're starting to some of them are starting to become complete. All right. Until then, as always, may the Lord richly, richly bless.